I never planned to become the neighborhood renegade. But there I was, standing in my backyard, gripping a rusty axe in one hand and a crumpled letter in the other, feeling like a man on the edge of a war I didn't start. The enemy? The Pinecrest Hollow Homeowners Association. My crime? Owning cedar trees that had the audacity to grow an inch too tall. At 13 feet, they were a foot prouder than the HOA liked, and to them, that was a felony. Those trees weren't just wood and leaves. I planted them after my dad passed, each one a quiet tribute to him. But to the HOA, they were a violation with a price tag. It all kicked off on a sticky Tuesday, the kind where the air clings to your skin like a bad decision. I was in my kitchen, sipping iced coffee, half listening to a podcast about lost CI violations, when I spotted a letter under my door. I thought it was a pizza flyer or a coupon for gutter cleaning. Nope. It was a cold, typed demand on thick paper. No pleasantries, just per section 4.2 of the landscaping guidelines. Your cedar trees exceed the height limit. Trim them at 12 feet by Friday, or face due law 100 daily fines. I read it twice, blinked, then walked outside to stare at my trees. They stood tall, serene, like they knew they were worth fighting for. These trees had been my anchor through heartbreak, bad hangovers, and one brutal stomach bug. They weren't going anywhere. I called the HOA's number, hoping for a human with a shred of reason. Instead, I got Lorraine Baxter, the HOA president, whose voice sounded like it was forged in a call center from hell. "This is Lorraine. How can I assist you briefly?" I tried explaining the tree's meaning, but she cut me off, spitting out rules like a robot with a vendetta. Section 4.2 is clear. Trees over 12 feet compromise visibility and aesthetic balance. Non negociable. My backyard faced a muddy retention pond, not a scenic VYSTA, but she didn't care. I hung up before I said something that'd get me blacklisted from the neighborhood potluck. That night, I sat on my porch, the moonlight we VYing through the branches like silver threads. I remembered planting the first tree, mixing my dad's ashes into the soil. He despised conformity, called HOAs herds of overzealous ants. I chuckled, then sighed. By morning, another letter arrived, hand-delivered, slapping me with a due law 100 fine for my non-compliant foliage. I tried playing nice, wrote a letter begging for an exception, sent photos, even offered to trim the tips. 2 days later, they sent back a rejection that basically said, "Your feelings don't matter." Things escalated fast. They sent landscapers to my yard without warning. I chased them off with a broom, looking like a crazed hermit. They reported me for hostile behavior, or I put up a sign saying, "Save the trees." They fined me for unauthorized signage. I thought about MOVYing, but that felt like surrender, and I don't surrender. One evening, while walking my dog, Rocket, a feisty Shiba Inu with strong opinions, I ran into my old friend Nate. We'd grown up together. Now he was an electrician with a side gig as a conspiracy theorist. "The HOA's not just about trees," he said, adjusting his sunglasses at dusk. "It's control. They want us all in lockstep. Oh, and their office sits on a power line that runs behind your lot." That sparked a reckless, brilliant idea. I didn't want to hurt anyone, just send a message. I dove into city records, infrastructure maps, and shady YouTube tutorials on how to mess with power lines without dying. My browser history probably flagged me for a dozen watch lists, but I was meticulous. The HOA's fines hit due law 800, with threats of legal action if I didn't comply by Sunday. That's when I decided, if they wanted a fight, they'd get one. The plan was to crash their precious gala, a self-congratulatory bash powered by a transformer behind my property. To pull it off, I needed intel, which meant doing the unthinkable, attending an HOA meeting. I couldn't go as myself not after the broom incident, so I became Theodore Grayson, a curious homebuyer in a musty tweed jacket and a cheap mustache that smelled like glue. I strolled into the Pinecrest Hollow Clubhouse like I was scoping out a mortgage. Lorraine was at the podium, preaching about mulch vendors with a GRA VYTS of a wartime general. The room debated pet waste stations and non-offensive Halloween decor. I nearly lost it. Then Lorraine mentioned the gala. Outdoor, catered, with lights and a live stream, all running off that transformer. I slipped out, grinning like a fox. Nate was all in, his eyes gleaming like a kid plotting a prank. "We're not cutting wires, just flipping a switch," he said. "Lights out, chaos in, trees stay." He showed me the junction box, hidden under a maintenance panel, and rigged a timer to kill the power 30 minutes into the gala. I spent the week like a low-budget vigilante, mapping escape routes, buying a headlamp, practicing silent footsteps. Rocket gave me side-eye, like he knew I was up to no good. Friday night, I played normal wave at neighbors, mowed my lawn, faked a Zoom call. At 11 p.m., under a moonless sky, I crept out in black clothes, Nate's tool bag over my shoulder. The panel was cold, my hands shaky with adrenaline. I wasn't breaking anything, just balancing the scales. I set the timer, secured the panel, and slipped home, my heart pounding. What if it backfired? What if I blacked out the whole town? I forced myself to breathe. This was about showing them control has a cost. Saturday, I watched the gala's live stream, a parade of white tablecloths and smug faces. Lorraine raised a wine glass, droning about the safest, most orderly neighborhood. At 7:56, the lights flickered. At 7:57, darkness swallowed the screen. Screams erupted. A wine glass shattered. Someone yelled, "Is this a terrorist attack?" The feed cut to a glitched HOA logo, then nothing. I leaned back on my couch, stunned. It worked. No explosions, just chaos. I toasted my trees and slept with my window open, their branches whispering like partners in crime. The next morning felt like the calm after a heist. I sipped coffee on my porch, ears pricked for suspicion. Nothing. Nate swung by with beers and a grin. "Brenda sprained her ankle in the dark," he said. "Someone fell into the chocolate fountain. It's a mess." We laughed too hard, but I knew the HOA wouldn't let this slide. By Monday, flyers screamed about an investigation and offered 6 months of free dues for snitches. Lorraine prowled the streets, clipboard in hand, grilling everyone. She cornered me while I pretended to trim my hedge. "Did you notice any power issues Saturday?" she asked, eyes like daggers. "Nope," I said, wiping fake sweat. "Thought it was mood lighting." She scribbled something and stalked off. The neighborhood forum exploded with theories. Faulty transformer, hackers, even a foreign cyber attack. No one pointed at me. But something else happened. The gala flop made the HOA look weak, and people started rebelling. Trash bins lingered past pickup day. Pink flamingos sprouted on lawns. A mysterious note appeared in my mailbox. "I don't know what happened, but thank you. A friend." No signature. I tucked it away, wondering who saw through the chaos. Then the bombshell dropped. Someone leaked Lorraine's emails on the forum, exposing her skimming HOA funds for a wine fridge and funneling contracts to her cousin's overpriced landscapers. The posts vanished fast, but Nate snagged screenshots. At the emergency meeting, the clubhouse was packed, the air thick with tension. Lorraine tried to spin her usual nonsense, but hands shot up. Residents waved, printed emails, demanding answers about missing financials and marble bathroom upgrades. A retired judge called for a no-confidence vote. Hands rose like a tide. Lorraine froze, then grabbed her purse and walked out to a slow clap. The queen was dethroned. She vanished days later, her house dark, a for-sale sign up by Wednesday. The neighborhood bloomed. Block parties erupted. Kids drew chalk murals. Nate, somehow voted interim leader, ditched fines for barbecues. My trees stood untouched, symbols of defiance. But then a county letter arrived, announcing a power grid inspection. My stomach dropped. Had I left a trace? Nate and I checked the panel at midnight clean. No EVY denke. The inspectors came, poked around, and left. Days later, a letter cleared the grid. I collapsed in relief. I hosted a community MOVYE night, a far cry from the guy once fined for a crooked bird feeder. Kids ran wild, adults laughed, even Brenda brought lemon bars. Nate toasted the crowd, hinting at someone sparking the change. Eyes flicked my way, not accusing, just knowing. Another note appeared. "I know what you did and thank you." I didn't chase the sender. It felt bigger than me. The old HOA office became a community hub, no bylaws, just coffee and books. Someone framed Lorraine's tree violation notice, a red marker scrawl beneath, and they're still growing. A kid under my tallest tree asked why it was so big. Because no one told it to stop, I said. He grinned like he got it. The fight wasn't just about trees. It was about who holds the switch. Pinecrest Hollow wasn't perfect, but it was alive, messy, free. My cedar stood tall, and for the first time, I felt home. So what do you think? Was I a hero or a reckless fool? Should I have fought legally, or was the blackout the only way? Who do you think sent those notes, and what would you have done in my shoes? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button if you're team trees, and subscribe for more stories where the little guy fights back. Let's start a rebellion in the comments.